So next up, I have for you an executive functioning small group. I absolutely love this group. I think it's so great to do all year long, but this time of year is really important because as the academic rigor increases, there's a need for students to tweak, and refine their executive functioning skills as well as their study skills. So why I think you should use an executive functioning small group? Well, it supports academic growth. The teachers love to see this, and parents too, right? Oftentimes our small groups are, based on social emotional topics, which we know as the counselors are equally important. But a lot of times, having that academic component gets more buy-in from stakeholders. It's also proactive and preventative. So you can do this group with anybody, so they don't have to be struggling academically to do it. These are things that I think children and adults alike can really benefit from refining their executive functioning skills. And it's just a fresher way to teach study skills. Like a study skills lesson is just kind of boring. This is more science-based, brain-based, and it's just a more fun, fresh way to teach these applicable skills. So here's what it looks like in action. It has a lot of, discussion cards. There's like a scavenger hunt, and then you can also see a doodle journal. So each week you'll get a weekly outline, and these outlines are aligned to the ASCA Mindsets and Behaviors, and they have a clear objective. Then it will have the order of events for that week. So we always start with that group rules and feelings check, and then each week has an icebreaker activity and the doodle journal. So what I encourage you to do is you're going to do the icebreaker as like the activity all together, and you discuss, and then the doodle journal the students will kind of do independently, and then they can keep this in a folder, and then at the end of group they can take the doodle journal home. So the doodle journal is really cool. And then of course we always have a reflection journal to close out each session. And I've got for you a counselor's guide kind of explaining what I just said to you, how you can organize the doodle journal. And the intention of the doodle journal is for students to have a place to review everything they've learned in the group so they can refer back to it later on. And then I have the table of contents there so you know where to find everything. Like I said, I always like to do group rules and feelings check for our small groups. So you can use the rules that I've provided, or you can have the kids come up with some on their own. And then the feelings check, you always want to make sure that you're modeling this, going in different order each time. That way the kids feel comfortable to share. And you can even write, the sentence structure on the board, like I feel blank when blank because blank or whatever. Or you can keep it simple. I'm feeling happy because this, or I'm feeling sad because this. Next up, data tracking tools. So of course we want to track student progress in our small group. So we can do this by using pre-group and post-group self-assessments. So here is a self-assessment where the kids can, write their name and the date, and then they can circle what they think. If yes or no, they know this, or they can circle the or if they're kind of somewhere in between. And then when you collect the same data later on, you can see how the kids have progressed. Then you have an interactive doodle journal. So this is what I was talking about. Each week they get one or two pages of the doodle journal, and then they'll be assembling it. And by the end of the group, they're going to have this awesome doodle journal that they can come back to and check out there. So you can see some of the activities. There's like a perfectionist quiz, a planning backwards map, some test anxiety strategies, and they're all really visually appealing. So it's kind of like a right brain, left brain situation. So they're getting to be creative and fun while they're learning these critical thinking skills. So let's break it down week by week. In week 1, they're going to get an introduction to executive functioning. So they start by doing a scavenger hunt. So you're going to hide these executive functioning terms around the room, and then the students are going to find them. And the student who finds the most wins. So you can do a little prize if you want. And then when they return to their seats, you can ask them, what they know about executive functioning, and then you can talk about the skills and how they're similar to study skills. And then for the doodle journal, this is where they're going to color in the bars of the graph to show how they feel about each skill. So for example, organization. They can color in help, I don't even know where to start, I feel okay about this, or I'm a pro. So this is a good way for us to see which skills the students need more support on coming into it. It's almost like another self-assessment. So here's the picture of it in action. You can see the kids coloring it in, and there is that scavenger hunt. For week 2, it's all about planning and organization. So the icebreaker for this one's really fun. The kids are actually going to do a fake group project. So you're going to give them those student instructions. It's where they're going to be pretending that they're working on a group project together. They have a due date, but it's like a long-term due date, and they need to come up with a plan. So they're going to divide the following tasks into who's going to do what and when. So they're kind of just doing this fake planning for the group project. But then afterwards, you're going to be observing, while they're doing this, and then you're going to share your observations and debrief the activity with them. So you're going to, kind of notice like who's being a leader, who's using time management skills, who's cooperating, who's just waiting for instruction. So give them a few minutes to make the plan, and then you're going to debrief using these questions like, did they have any idea how to start organizing their task? Was this difficult? Was it challenging? Did they procrastinate? Did they make rough drafts, or did they just wing it? So it's kind of a fun activity to keep them on their toes. And then for the doodle journal for this component, it's the planning backwards map. So in this one, you may recognize this. It's really similar to the one from the goal setting group we had last month. But this is where the students will identify a goal, and then they have to write the steps that they need to do to get there, kind of work backwards from the due date, and then pick those dates along the way that they'll have little checkpoints. In week 3, we focus on task initiation. So they have some procrastination charades for the icebreaker. So this is fun. Have the kids, they're going to draw these, take turns. They'll come up and draw the slip of paper, and then they have to act it out. So if it's play a video game, they'll act out playing a video game, and the other kids will try to guess. So that's a fun way to see, they're just guessing these fun things. And then at the end, you say, do you know what all of these things have in common? These are all ways that we tend to procrastinate sometimes. So by themselves, they're not inherently bad tasks. Reading a book, eating a snack, hanging out with friends. These aren't bad things, but sometimes we use them to procrastinate. And then for the doodle journal, it's a 2-pager this time. There's an accountability partners and procrastination chart that they can fill out, identifying who are people that can help them and what are their common procrastination techniques. And then there's a fun little quiz called Are You a Perfectionist? Where they can see, based on their answers, if they're a perfectionist or not. So you can see there's the paper strips from the charades, and then over here's the perfectionist quiz and that other worksheet. Next up for week 4, it is time management and attention. So the icebreaker for this one I love. It's using the Stroop effect. So it's really hard. You can try to do it right now as you see this paper. But it's where the kids are supposed to just name the color that they're seeing, not the word that they're reading. So for example, the first one would be blue, not red. So it gets kind of tricky. It's definitely a brain teaser. And then we have some discussion cards where they talk about attention. Is paying attention difficult at home? Is it difficult at school? Was that activity difficult for you? How does that relate to attention? And then these are the papers for the interactive notebook or the doodle journal that go with week 4. So there's some tips for staying focused. So the kids can kind of write tips for staying focused at school, and they can circle the ones they like, color it in. And then the prioritizing tasks. So I love this sheet. I've actually projected this on the board and then written it in with a dry erase marker together as like a group before they do their own. So I'll talk to the kids and say like, okay, so tell me some things you need to do. And they'll say like, oh, I need to feed the dog, or do my homework, or take the trash out. And then what are some things you want to do? Well, I want to go skateboarding, or I want to play video games, or I want to FaceTime my friend who lives far away. So then we have to do the order of importance, like what should you do first? And it's really fun, and it's cool to see the kids' gears kind of turning for this one. And then here is the picture of those discussion cards that go with the Stroop effect activity. So then for week 5, it's all about perseverance. So the icebreaker, these are fun. There's some perseverance word puzzles. So you want to show the students the word puzzles, and they're pretty difficult. They definitely require like some out-of-the-box thinking. So the point of it is to see, like these would even be hard for adults, but the point of it is to see which students persevere and keep trying and which ones give up easily. So you want to give them like 5 to 10 minutes to do this, and then you're going to be observing them kind of like you did earlier with the fake group project. And then you'll debrief together. So you can say, was this difficult? Which parts were challenging? Did you want to give up? Or I noticed you gave up at this point. Why did you keep trying? Things like that. And then for the doodle journal, they can talk about an obstacle that they have to learning, and they can circle some potential solutions that might help them, such as asking for help. Week 6 focuses on flexible thinking and developing a growth mindset. So for the icebreaker, we have a circle chat. So you're going to cut these out and you can put them on an inflatable beach ball. The kids are going to toss the ball around, and wherever their thumbs land, they get to pick one of those questions to answer. And all the questions are about growth mindset or fixed mindset. You know, talk about a time that you showed one, or is this a fixed mindset or a growth mindset question, or how can you develop this? Or if you want, you could always put these on Jenga. They're the same size where you could cut them out and put them on Jenga. But as a group, I like doing the beach ball. And then flexible thinking. This is for the doodle journal. The kids are going to change the negative thoughts to positive ones. So there are some examples there, and then they're going to fill in the blanks. Week 7 focuses on test anxiety. So the icebreaker is a card game / discussion dice. So you use a deck of cards to figure out who's going to answer the question. So depending on what they draw, like if they draw even, they may be answering the question. If they draw odd, the person to their left is answering. If they draw a face card, they pass. And then if they draw a king, everyone answers. So then they're going to roll the die, and then whatever that question is. And it's all about test anxiety. So talk about a time you've had test anxiety. Have you ever experienced it? Name someone who can support you if you're feeling anxious about a test. On a scale of 1 to 10, how bad do you experience test anxiety? And then we have some strategies there that they could try, so they can circle the strategies that work best for them, and then even fill in the blank with some additional strategies. So here's a picture of the doodle journal in action. That's kind of the dice and then what it looks like. And then if you look on the right here, you can see where they're circling the strategies that may work for them. In week 8, we're wrapping it all up with a balanced lifestyle. So it's a funny image here. It's like good grades, have fun, or get sleep. Choose 2, right? Because it's hard. It's like a joke. So you kind of talk about it using these discussion cards. Like, do you feel like this is funny? Does this represent your life? Which 2 could you choose? You know, because maybe they want good grades and to get sleep, but then they're not going to have any fun. Or maybe they want to have fun and get sleep, but then they're not going to have good grades. So it's kind of a joke, but it's cool to get the kids thinking about a balanced lifestyle. So they're going to talk about how their lifestyle affects their learning. So we really want them to make this connection because they may have never thought of it before. So everything from like brain food, so talking about foods that help them focus, healthy foods, you know, versus junk food, makes them maybe sleepy at school. We're going to talk about screen time, how they're spending their screen time, how much time they're spending on screens. And then there's a cute bar graph where they can color up the amount of hours of sleep they typically get each night. So then they can fill this out and always, you know, compare and contrast and share with their classmates if they want to. And then these are those discussion cards that go along with that graphic that they show for the icebreaker. And then, like I said, each week wraps up with a journal reflection prompt. So, you know, allow a few minutes at the end for the kids to answer these privately. So, for example, here's one from Journal 3. Do you feel like you're a perfectionist? What can you do when you have a hard time starting a task? So it's making a personal connection to the executive functioning skill that they learned in that session. Okay, guys, I hope your kiddos love the executive functioning group as much as I do.